Hi, my name's Darrell, and I'm a digital user experience consultant at Under2. I've been helping people improve their websites, apps, and mobile experiences for 25 years now. And today I'm going to cover 5 mistakes that you're probably making on your website. First though, it's worth saying that every fintech sale involves your website. It's extremely unlikely that anyone's going to buy your service or product without seeing your site at least at some point. There are a few exceptions to that, but very, very few. It is one of the most valuable marketing assets, if not the most valuable marketing asset. Often forgotten these days because there are a lot more exciting channels. But making mistakes on your website is going to hurt you. First up, we've got poor positioning. It's stunning the number of websites generally, but fintech websites especially, that have pretty poor positioning on their websites. A lot of meaningless jargon. What I've done here is I've taken some examples from the top 50 UK fintech websites. I have anonymised them. I'm a little worried that I might be in the audience. But I just want to go through a few of these. Putting banks at the heart of every business is one. The foundation of modern banking is another I've seen. And deliver your bank's future faster. Now, what all of these have got in common is that very low information content. They don't tell you anything. You learn nothing from those statements at all. They're marketing fluff. And this piece of information is the first thing that forms an impression in the prospect's minds. It's formed in milliseconds. These meaningless lines, they confuse people, frustrate prospects, and that's the worst thing you want to do when they just arrive at your site. Above the fold on your homepage is your website's most valuable real estate. It's the single most visited page, and that bit at the top is the most important. Don't waste it. Don't make your visitors work hard to understand what you do, and don't try and be smart or clever. Be clear and precise. When people come to your site, what they're really looking for, the first thing they're looking for is, what do they do and is it for me? So what you have to do is answer this question. We do whatever your product and service is for whoever your audience is. And I've contrived a few examples just to illustrate this. Payment systems of small business. You can tell instantly what this company does and who it's for. Core banking for challenger brands. White label credit card for retailers. Again, very simple, clear. You can do them boring, but they work. And that's the most important thing. Number 2, not doing your research. The most expensive thing you can do in web development is to build the wrong thing. And that's why doing research up front is so important, often neglected, nearly always neglected. But it gives the single greatest return on investment that is possible related to your website. The goal should be to balance what the business wants to achieve with what users want to get from your site. That's where great user experiences come from. We're good at doing the business goals and understanding what the business wants to get out of the site, but we're very poor at understanding what users want to get out of our websites. When I talk about user research here, I'm talking very specifically about website user research, not generally understanding your customers. What do your customers, prospects who want specifically from your website? How do you find out what they want? It's relatively easy. You ask them. There's lots of methods of doing that, surveys, interviews, usability testing. You can do other things like meta-analysis of existing research and using heuristics. I've heard every single possible excuse for not doing research. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to take a long time. And while it can be challenging to get the C-suite to engage, it's almost certain if the C-suite is your audience, there are others involved in the sales process that will talk to you. The number one reason people don't do any research, they say it's budget, but really, I believe, it's because they don't want to find out that they're wrong. People don't like to know that their ideas aren't the right ones. Next up, and this flows very much from the last point, not creating the right content. Creating the right content on your site has massive ongoing positive effects. Content strategy is a really, really big topic in itself, so I'm going to go through a specific example, in this instance, enterprise sales. Selling to the enterprise, characterising the enterprise as high value, low volume customers where prices are thousands to millions of pounds a year, that's their spending with you, where you might have 10 or hundreds of customers. Those sort of sales usually involve 5 or 6 stakeholders for a minimum firm. From juniors doing research through to the C-suite who take the responsibility for the final decision. 3 main disciplines within that sales cycle is the research that a client will do, where they're looking for a firm to solve their problem. Now, this is often done by younger people, more junior people in the organisation. They're tasked by others to do this. They don't know as much about your industry, about the industry that they're in, because they haven't been in it as long. Buzzwords confuse them. They're still learning. Also, they're much more likely to use mobile devices and lower-end tech, which is a mistake a lot of people make, and they don't take that into account. Next stage is evaluation, and this is typically done by subject matter experts, technical people, developers, implementers, the people who are actually going to be tasked with taking your products and making it work. They've got a very different set of concerns. Third up, decision makers. And at this point, we're saying, are we sure this is right for us? The C-suite normally has the sign-off, but often they're rubber stamping the decision that other people have made. They're also the people that are going to spend the least amount of time on your website. Might also want to think about which stage in the cycle you're at. We know at the beginning, early in the sales cycle, people are looking for positivity, excitement. They're looking at the upsides. What could this thing do for me? At the end of the sales cycle, they're a lot more cautious. They're looking for reassurance that they're not making a mistake. So the content and features required for each of those stages is very different and specific. Generic content, which tries to address all of those things, just isn't effective. If you don't service your researchers at the beginning, you don't even make the long list, no matter about a short list. And if you're doing lots of expensive marketing directed at the C-suite, it's going to be wasted because you're not even on the list. So ask yourselves, are you creating content specifically for those different stages? And if not, why not? All the marketing directors in the room will love the next one. You're not spending enough. It's easy to say that, but actually it's true. With the conversations we have with clients, big and small, and I'm talking unicorns as well as startups, the most common budget that people say that they've got for their website is 10 grand. Now, I looked up a marketing director salary is about 90k a year, which means it costs the company about 120k a year to have a marketing director. That means if you've got a budget of 10 grand, what you're saying is you value your website roughly the same as 1 month of your marketing director. And I'm not entirely sure that's what you mean to do. We hear a lot but we've been burned before, that we spent 50, 60, 100k and didn't get what we wanted, ended up with a load of rubbish. Well, why was it that you got burned? Is it possible that you built the wrong thing? Was that because you didn't do your research up front? Building things is very straightforward. Knowing what to build is really hard. So I often get asked, all right, well, how much should you spend on your website? Well, if you're not spending 25k a year on UX, design, development, and testing, you're just not taking it seriously. That's absolutely minimum. So 25 to 2.5 million a year you should be spending. Most people aren't investing, and if you don't invest, you don't get a return. If you don't know what to spend on your site, then spend at least as much as you're paying your marketing director. Because as good as all marketing directors obviously are, your website should be delivering at least that amount of value. Number 5, the last point. You're not being boring enough. Marketers often suffer from shiny object syndrome. We like new, glossy, and wonderful. Everyone wants to do something really cool, have that great design. But you should resist that temptation. Unless you're in that 2.5 million a year category, it's nearly always terrible investment. Terrible. When we ask clients what sites they like as an inspiration, you won't be surprised to hear that Stripe comes out on top. But they don't even spend 2.5 million a year. They spend more like 25 million a year on a website. Just last year, they had over 40 positions open for hiring on their website team. They have a lot of highly paid designers, researchers, developers, and they have some fantastic parts of their site, really fancy, cool stuff. The animated header, there's a great blog post about how that was made. It's fantastic. But they spend far more money on the boring stuff. Research, testing, optimization. That's why a website's so good, not because they do some fancy graphics. So while we look at the beautiful parts of the site, you have to remember that the majority of success doesn't come from that. It comes from the boring work. So embrace the boring. Great user research, content strategy, regular testing, user journey optimization, site performance, SEO, content management. All of these things are the things that actually move the needle, that actually make a difference. And that's my 5 mistakes you're probably making on your website. Poor positioning, not doing your research, not creating the right content, not spending enough, and not being boring enough. Thank you very much.